Hey, hello, hey, hi, everybody, social media family, being of any subscribers as well as any visitors to that being of my own immediate personal social media channel and our chat room or comment section. How are you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not better yet, to be said to be feeling all right. If not best of all, to be said to be feeling less than stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly become and be stressed. You and yours and family and friends, and hopefully me and mine. Likewise, as well, all the same, or whatever I've said. And please do excuse, pardon, forgive me for possibly butchering the English language of our own American dialect once again for the umpteenth consecutive time. Then I never had claimed to have become or be some kind of an English major, neither nor an English professor. Not that of this present social media broadcast or bill is about how I could possibly need to go for or get into an English 101 refresher course, educational class, lesson plan. No, rather it's about something else. And now that I have gotten the preliminaries, being of the basic intro as an introduction, and likewise a footnote out of the way, then let me just dive into this one particular subject matter or topic of discussion or argument to be debated with the many different views and opinions thereof to be possibly affiliated, associated with, and representing that being of the same, and as it would complement that being of the name title up above for this particular social media broadcast and video, and as well as, or likewise, the preliminaries of the basic intro as an introduction and footnotes for that matter. Okay, I'm going to try to knock this out at this rather late hour, whereas I should be getting my Z's, but for some reason or another, couldn't get my beauty rest as soon as I would have liked to. You know, for some reason or another, be it of the weather's temps or something else. Then I yet to spray for bugs once again, especially if they crawl up in bed and bite. I believe they're coming from this one other neighbor's place rather than his apartment, and I've been finding myself spraying much more regularly than usual. You know, that is, I spray on a regular basis whenever I have to, but lately I've been spraying that much more. You know, to supplement any previous spraying a day or so ago, and I think I may have to spray tomorrow. You know, because I don't know where these critters coming from, but I suspect they're coming from another neighbor's apartment nearby of another unit of a place of residence. Because that's the only way to explain it. Because as much spraying as I have done most recently, speaking upon these matters now and becoming man that I mean stray from the original subject matter topic of discussion or given an argument to be debated with many different views and opinions thereof. But, I mean, I've been spraying like a professional exterminator, more or less, or to be compared onto one. Yeah. And so much for that conversation. Moving right along, or getting back to some or such other. And think of it with that in my mind's intention to try to backtrack every reason or purpose of being, and also I can go with on the following to continue from where and when that my personality last left off so I can finish up as a complete a form for use of fire line thought in that same sense of word. And as in regard or make reference to the present kind of social media broadcast or video or whatever one wants to call it. And as this is to address the issue of the continuous confinement or incarceration of pretty boy Ricky, pretty Ricky, or white boy Rick. He himself is an inmate of a penal colony or penitentiary for a prison system, whereas he had been paroled finally from one only to be resentenced, reconfined, or reincarcerated in still another, after having done something like a couple or few decades in one. And all being because it was total smear campaign, cam, cam, uh, total smear campaign orchestrated, initiated, perpetrated against him. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. It is about late hour. It's coming up on a 2 o'clock hour now, and where my bedtime is supposed to be 11 p.m. Regardless of any proverbial neighbors from damn hell to affect my sleeping patterns, and then some. It had me, you know, trying to think with a mass intentions to submit my grievances or submit my complaints to the necessary authorities, like say from real estate management, representing personnel to the police themselves. Then that's a totally different subject matter, topic of discussion, or giving an argument with the many different views and opinions to be affiliated, associated with, and representing in his own right. But getting back to the original one, and so there was yes, so I say as I think of it with that my master try backtrack here with the purpose of being, and also going to follow and to continue from where I went that my personality last left off so I can finish up as complete a form of prior line thought and in the saying his word. And so this one white boy, he has done serious jail time, more than some of such the more or most hardcore criminals who had gotten something practically, if not possibly, similar to a slap on the wrist compared to how, you know, the judicial system of our own democratic republic, supposed so-called democracy of the USA, had really railroaded him, like as if somebody was attempting to make an example out of this one white boy who was portrayed, even so, in the news media as some kind of hardcore criminal of a public enemy number one of the likes of the usual suspect, whereas they had placed him into the same or similar sort of category with and or classified him to be of the likes of someone or such a one, like somebody like, you know, El Chapo Guzman or something. And that was so far from the truth of the fact of the matter, you know. And so they have confined, incarcerated him unreasonably for an excessive amount of calendar years. And so, just as you all would, or some among you would petition and or put forth the effort to petition and or protest for the release of Hollywood, California celebrity Britney Spears to be released from her father's authority or jail, then so I implore you all to put forth just as much effort and or passion to have pretty boy Rick, pretty Ricky, or white boy Rick to be released from any, ever, and all following jail jail sentences or jail terms. Then because I think he has suffered enough, I mean, beyond a reasonable doubt, you know, a couple, few decades in jail, really now, just as much as I would want to witness the release of Larry Hoover of the Gangster Disciples and Jeff Ford of the El Rookins, formerly the Black Peace Stone Rangers, then I would wish hope for that to happen for the release of pretty, pretty, pretty boy, or pretty boy Rick, or pretty Ricky, or white boy Rick, then because nobody is supposed to be confined or incarcerated, for an unreasonable, excessive amount of calendar years to defy the proper dictates of the laws governs that being of our own American or U.S. judicial or legal system, you know. And I say this as a person who has studied law in times past as a former ex paralegal student, whereas I have yet to yes resume my educational studies in that regard in reference to some of such, so that I could finally get that parchment paper of a degree or certificate or diploma to be considered as a licensed paralegal, and then furthermore to take it from there to try to go a step further and become educated, or you know get into an educational program to become a lawyer or attorney, and then a judge for that matter. But then getting back to some of such as this is not about me, you know. Okay, but as I backtrack here to go on with the following from where and when I last left off, and so pretty Ricky, pretty pretty white boy Rick, pretty Ricky, whatever I've said. Even rotten in a can. A white boy Rick Gushy or something like that. Gushy, you know. Google it. I mean, I think it's a crying shame to think that this white boy, he was railroaded since day one. Dirty cops framing him. His own lawyers betraying him, you know, whereas they should have been disbarred for not carrying out their legal responsibilities or obligations to him as, a client of theirs, where they were supposed to come off like legal counsel for this defense, but yet they come off as prosecutors working with, you know, a prosecutor otherwise for the total opposite that will come against him, you know, when they were supposed to defend him within a court of law as his legal defense counsel, and they had did the total opposite, and that was wrong. Two, politicians deciding that they didn't really want to get involved one way or another. They just start to leave it to the parole board, yes, and to the parole board themselves, and then the media railroading him. Really now. So that's what this present social media broadcast or video is about. So I want you all to share this here social media broadcast or video about Pretty Ricky, white boy Rick, you know, Goodwit, you know. He was a small time drug pusher, dope dealer, being of whom so many portrayed him as if he was an experienced drug cartel lord connected with many operations and organizations, and it's wrong. You uh, and the devil is a liar, the truth is not in him. So, so justice must come his way. He himself should be vindicated, reimbursed, compensated for the many years he spent behind bars, having his due process denied him, having his civil and human rights violated, you know, for some of such a great length of time. Whereas, you know, as I was hearing according to the documentary upon his particular legal case, whereas a person is supposed to be given something like, what is it, one chance every couple few or 5 years to go before a parole board. He wasn't able to go before parole board for the first time until something like a couple of decades, if not a few altogether, had passed. Isn't that ridiculous, you all? Really? He wasn't even given permission to be released to go to his father's funeral. You know, I mean, wow, really now. And then his mother is not feeling too well. You know, whereas it's like she herself is upon her last leg of this journey of life. Now, somebody had really done a number on him, you know, for whatever reason and on purpose. For them having had him rot in the can for so long. This one white boy, you understand what I'm saying? Really now. For them to come down hard on him. He was a teenager doing adult time in adult jail. Imagine that. He was supposed to be, if anything, transferred to, well, come and think of it, they didn't really institute that, the policies and procedures and protocol until much later. Whereas now they have it on the books that no adolescent or teenager, especially a preteen child, is to be sent into a jailhouse facility for adults or grown-ups, you know. But this young man, he was in one, and for a number of calendar years. As a matter of fact, for a couple few decades, you know, finally got released from one, only to be resentenced for another to do the jailhouse rock. Oh wow! No, kind of like brought tears to my eyes to think that here it is. We're supposed to be Americans. We're supposed to believe in due process. You know, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It's not like we're living in a dictatorship like Russia or somewhere else, whereas in some parts of the world you're guilty until proven innocent. Can you imagine it's like that in the country or nation of Mexico? Mexico, you're guilty until proven innocent. The total opposite of how in the USA you're innocent until proven guilty. Wow. Whereas this pretty Ricky, white boy Rick, may as well had been placed in a Mexican jail, you know, or a Russian jail for that matter, with his civil and human rights haven't been violated for the longest. It just got me to think about another horrific story, and there's countless ones of some such urban legend horror stories, like this one young black boy who was sent to an adult jail, was held there and was placed on death row. And then they executed him. But once they had dug deeper, they found out that he was innocent of the crime that had sent them there in the first place. At a time when they did not have, DNA, to confirm or verify whether one is innocent or guilty. Or whereas back then, different mobsters, different mob families, if they cut down a rival, they would merely take, some of such uh, the deceased corpse of one of their rivals and just throw it in a swamp or in a river for a riverbed or in a lake or ocean, and after a time frame period, the body would decompose, and with there not being any DNA back then, and likewise, whereas somebody could shoot another person with a loaded revolver or pistol or gun, well, up until the time before they did the other kind of DNA, so far as the testing of ballistics, you just merely break the gun down and toss it somewhere, you know, bottle of water or down a chimney pipe and be there for years. And over a period of time would decompose or, or be buried underground come the demolishing of a building structure, you know. But nowadays you can't just if they were to want to get rid of a body, they would have to cremate it. And as I'm hearing it, that's what happened to the late Union Mafia boss Jimmy Hoffa. Anyway, though, getting back to some of such others, though. So they didn't have any real evidence against this white boy, Pretty Ricky, white boy Rick, but yes, more than quite a few had it in for him to have him do serious hard time that some of the much more familiar and much more most hardened criminals had gotten off with something that would be considered as a slap on the wrist, where they practically, if not possibly, had gotten off free compared to how somebody wanted to make an example out of him, you know. So put forth a petition of protest to free Pretty Ricky, white boy Rick, you know. Get together with your family members and friends and make this here protest go not only citywide, statewide, and nationwide, but worldwide. You know. Other than that, on this last note of interest, I think I'm going to close out, short, you know, as I would usually give that the basic intro and footnotes for a social media broadcast video, and then after that, give you content there, what I think about this or that of a subject matter, depending on how I feel, I can speak upon one or a couple, three or four more for that matter. Then last but not least, I would close out by saying in more words or less, I would speak per verbatim exactly quote or paraphrase by saying, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins. By recognizing or realizing what he himself had done or did upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha, suffering at the hands of some sort of Roman soldiers up under orders of their superiors, militaristic, political, religious, and or otherwise, etc. Excuse me. And now natural physical body function. Getting back to some. Whereas he was crucified by Roman soldiers, in other words, up on the orders of, you know, centurions, Caesars, religious Pharisees, and Sadducees, and etc. But nevertheless, where he went to that cross of Calvary to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. Don't steal my trademark, not the corn. Don't steal my, well, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That's copyright something. And so that if any of us, being of whatsoever race and whatever walks of life, faction of society, lifestyle preferences, being of the old and young alike, both two sexual gender, male and female, representing not only the human species, being the global community within this post 911 era of a new millennium apocalyptic day and age, was doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared to our 400 period prior to them was at a quarter of midnight for these by the biblical prophetic time. Words to profess some such faith in them, according to that being which is complimenting that so far as concerning a religious, supernatural, spiritual nature. So if any of us were to profess some such faith in him, never become be blessed one regard another, always one. First and foremost, with his salvation being which is only means, of which any of us can or could possibly become citizens of the kingdom of heaven. Then second of all, with his deliverance. But first you have got to get his salvation, otherwise you have nothing coming. And if you make that transition for the great beyond the hereafter, afterlife without that fire insurance policy of his blood sacrifice, free gift of salvation, then your final destination will be the lake of fire, damn hell, to be assembled with the rest of the unsaved, lost down human souls, of unbelievers and non-believers. Unbelievers and non-believers, what I mean, to be tortured and terrorized by the devil and demons forever, compared to how we as believers in God will be across that great divide that separates heaven from hell, the company of like-minded believers, as in Christians, aka Protestants, in the presence of God and his angels, or otherwise. Because you have got to accept Christ as your personal Lord and say why you're here. Otherwise, you got nothing coming. You all